It's exciting, but kind of.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Try It Together. I am your host and founder, Cbd. Today, you are tuning in this afternoon with Miss Kiera Wilson and I. So, on this platform, we showcase courage, hope, and imagination. We use courage on this platform to showcase our stories. We use hope to overcome, and we use imagination to resonate and understand with the stories that are being shared. So, with that, I'd like to welcome Kiera.
Hi, everyone.
And it's her first interview. So, how do you feel?
A little bit nervous, and I
Oh,
usually don't get nervous.
yeah,
I'm pretty like
me
I
too.
can get in the flow of people whenever I go in a room, but this is kind of like I don't know.
Mm. So let me tell the viewers a bit about you. And thank you so much for choosing my platform to come on and talk about your story.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Right? I'm glad we met.
Absolutely.
So Kiera is a surgicalpreneur. She's a trauma surgery certified surgical technologist. That's a mouthful, right? I'll say it again. Trauma surgery certified surgical technologist turned real estate entrepreneur. She recently has been diagnosed with severe depression and PTSD, and she's not looking to share her journey, experiences, and her story that led up to the downfall. And now she's fighting to persevere.
Yes.
I really like that bio because you're the first person who wrote a bio that isn't more so about credentials, that's more so about their journey. And
Mhm.
with honesty that, hey, I was diagnosed with this, or hey, I do have this going on with me and I'm ready to talk about it. That takes a lot for someone to overcome to get to that point in itself.
Yeah,
So
it's
kudos to
been a journey. Thank
you.
you. It's
Yeah.
been a journey. I'm recently my last suicide attempt was actually in January. So I've
Mm.
come a long way in such a short period of time. And even my doctors, the psychiatrists, everybody's like, how are
Mhm.
you doing it? And I'm like, really honestly, I isolated myself.
Mhm. Do you feel
Um,
like yeah, go ahead. Mhm.
I isolated myself because I felt like it's not that you don't have a support system going through a mental down spiral. Some people feel like, oh, everybody's against them. But once you realize those people that you felt were against you at that time and you weren't seeing clearly, those people actually were there to help you. You kind of realize, like, hey, okay, you need to take a step back and look at yourself outside of yourself. And the only best way to do that is to kind of isolate yourself and actually look at yourself and look at the choices you're making.
Wow. You don't sound like someone who's its first interview.
But this is.
Yeah, it's like you're a natural. And CL King said he's sending you hugs and support.
Thank you.
So I want to ask you, when is that point when you realize I'm ready to talk about my journey now? Because I think it's been a few months when you had told me that you wanted to be interviewed, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened was I did a post, I want to say it's been about a month or so ago,
Mm.
and I just made a generic post on Facebook. I'm very open book, and it was something along the lines of sometimes you have to realize that even through social media, there are people that are looking at you and you inspire. And then when you go through these journeys and these downfalls, like I felt like I hit rock bottom. Like I felt like life was over. I felt like, why do I deserve to live? Why do I deserve to even be here? Even after all the pain that I caused to all the people who were in my support system, like why me? Why do I deserve to keep continuing? But then I realized, me making that post about like, how I felt, it stopped someone that I knew going to high school from committing suicide that day.
Wow.
And she was like, you don't even know, like I really just wanted to off myself today. And I was like, okay, it's actually people out there that are looking at my journey and it looks like it's so cookie cutter. But now that I share what I've been through and I'm able to talk about that now because I'm comfortable with that and I've accepted what the things that I can't change. I'm in the process of healing. I'm not completely healed, but I'm on that journey and it's allowing me to be able to say, okay, you know what? Me sharing bits and pieces of my story will help another person not commit suicide today or think about what can they do outside of that. So that's how I started to feel comfortable to be like, okay, you know what? Now I can actually kind of speak on my story. I'm not really too comfortable with sharing everything at the moment because it's still kind of fresh. But I feel like me just speaking out can still inspire someone by just that little post about how I felt save another life.
Yes. Do you feel like you have big dreams for yourself? Like you see yourself motivationally speaking to a crowd of people about your journey?
Um, with the support that I've been getting, just sharing a little bit of pieces and stuff like that, I kind of feel like that's where I'm headed towards.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, for some reason, I just had it in my spirit that there's somebody out there that needs my help or could use some type of advice from me. So I'm kind of looking into starting a nonprofit, like a mentorship for like women that needs to do
Mm-hmm.
something. So that's something that I'm kind of looking into right now. So yeah.
I'm smiling because I see it. Like this is just the beginning. Like I see you, more healed and speaking to people, even globally, traveling. Like you said, your nonprofit, it's already all within you. Now it's just a matter of time until it all comes to fruition. Is that
Yeah.
how you feel?
Yeah. It's an idea that popped up
Mm-hmm.
yesterday, and now I'm like, okay, now I feel like the universe, now that I'm at a point to where I'm comfortable, I do want people to know when you are going through these mental changes and stuff like that, don't beat yourself up when you have a moment to where you backslide, because that's where I feel like I kind of take a lot from myself, because I'm like, man, I worked so hard to get here and then I just slip back 10 steps. It feels like, man, the world is going to cave in on me again, but all you have to do is kind of persevere and be able to do that.
I want to ask you about your career. So you're a surgical technologist, is that correct?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Tell us more
So
about
I did trauma surgery, burn surgery. So with
that.
trauma surgery encompasses burn surgery, elective general surgery, in a whole. So not only did I do trauma surgery, which is like gunshot wounds, major car accidents, stuff like that, like stuff you probably seen on the news in the
Wow.
Houston area. That's probably been one of my patients, any officers that have been shot. Like I kind of deal with all of that stuff on top of any burn patients, like any houses that burned down, anywhere where they's had like a fire or something like exploded or fell on a patient. Like it's like multiple different things that come under there,
Wow.
and we help them get from the process of having skin that has completely been burned and regenerate skin, because a lot of people don't know skin is the largest organ of the body and it actually heals on its own.
Wow.
And you can take a piece of skin from one area, put it over the burn area, and then that skin will grow back. It may have discolorization, but it will grow back because your skin, it'll heal itself basically.
Wow. Well, that's fascinating. What, interested you to study this?
I initially wanted to go to nursing school. I ended
Mhm.
up getting, it's crazy. I got chicken pox right before my 21st birthday.
Yeah.
And I missed like 2 weeks of school, and I became like this kind of study, because they were like, how is it that you're 21,
Mhm.
almost 21, and you're getting chicken pox? And that was not the first time, that was the third time I had the chicken pox. They were like, you're supposed to get shingles. So it was like a kind of thing where it was like, okay. And in nursing school, that's when real life actually hit, because my teachers and those who were supposed to be supportive of you progressing actually was like, you know what, you're working full time, because I had to work full time to support myself to go to nursing school.
Wow.
And they were like, you should just like quit this BSN program and do an ADN program, because you're able to work more with that, and this is too complicated, you need full time with this. And I'm like, I don't care what you're saying, like if I flunk out, I did it with, putting my best foot forward. Most people
Yeah,
who go to school don't have to work their way through school.
that's
I'm
true.
working my way through school, and you're basically trying to tell me, oh, because you're less fortunate to have the opportunity to not be able to work to support yourself with going to school, then you should just quit. And I'm like, I just paid y'all $30,000 in tuition. Like, I will, no, I'm just going to take whatever I get.
Mhm.
At the end of the semester, I ended up not being able to go back. And, what I did was, at first it did put me in a lot of depression, because I'm like, man, this was a goal for me to actually become a nurse, open my own practice and stuff like that. But then I ended up going to Houston Community College where I met a teacher, Miss Guada, and she introduced me into surgical technology. But she was like, "You want to be an anesthesiologist? I wanted to be a CRNA," and she was like, "Well, you can go this way." And then it'll introduce you to the operating room, which is where you're going to be as an anesthesiologist, and you can kind of maneuver your way through there. And it actually worked out fine. However, that also added to me going through a downward spiral, because what a lot of people don't realize is working in surgery, especially the field that I went into, we deal with a lot of death. There's days where I can get to work at 6:30 in the morning and there's a case going on and we are not able to save the patient. I just got to work at 6:30. I don't leave until 7:30 p.m. 7 p.m. So I still have to go throughout the whole day doing case after case. And some days there's days where I had two patients die. My first day out of training, my patient died. The second day out of training, my patient died. So I was like, okay, is this really, what it is for me? And it's not only older people, it's younger kids. One of the last cases that I did, it was like a teenager. We thought it was a younger kid, but it was like those things you don't really get to process. Because you have to understand, working in a hospital, it is a business. So you kind of have to, like, I don't even know how to explain it. You kind of have to like push all of that back and just be like, whatever, keep going through the next case, but it's still on your mind. So then what you end up doing is we go to happy hours and we start drinking, and you drink and you drink and you drink and you drink. And then now it developed in from me having just socialized drinking to now I'm drinking 3 bottles a week. And that's when I knew it was a problem. But by that time, it was too late. So it's a tough job. However, I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that.
No, you're the first person talking about this. Thank you.
Yeah, it's emotionally, psychologically, mentally draining. And I only did it 4.5 years. And I felt like I've seen more death than I've seen in the 29 years I've been alive in 4.5 years. Yeah.
Is that what caused you to change careers? Now you want to change careers?
Yes. Yes. I still have my certification. I still want to keep it current because I'm one of those people who feel like you always have to create opportunity for yourself no matter what. If my real estate business decides, it goes back into COVID mode and I need to make money, I have other resources and other credentials behind me to say, you know what, hey, I can go back to do this. However, another reason I did leave the medical field is because of the COVID vaccine and not having enough supplies to be able to protect ourselves as workers. We're considered essential workers. However, we don't have the things to protect ourselves to in turn save the life of a patient. So every day a healthcare worker actually goes to work, they're risking their lives and the lives of other people they go home to because we don't necessarily have the supplies that we need to protect ourselves. Yeah.
Wow. Really heavy. Do you feel that your mental health depleted more so as you got into this field? And I know you said it was a bit of alcoholism going on as like a routine, right?
I would say yes. And one thing I can say that I felt was very changing for me was learning, going through therapy. She made me realize being at work, because I worked 12-hour shifts and then I did trauma surgery. So I was always on call. Being a trauma surgical tech, even though you're not on call officially, you're technically on call because if a catastrophic event happens, they're calling the trauma team first, because we're certified to do and we're trained to do anything that comes through the door, whether it's neurological surgery, spine surgery. We're trained to get it started until those people who are certified specifically in that area are able to come in. Even if they're not able to come in, we're still able to do it. So we have a lot of knowledge on all the different type of surgeries because we have to be prepared for anything that comes through the door. You have to be able to think on your feet, because we can get a page, it's 12:20 now, and the patient can be in the door in 30 seconds. And you have to be able to, just go. And then when it's all over, you're like, all right, I just ran a marathon, but really you haven't really did anything. You just had to think, your adrenaline is pumping and stuff like that. So yeah.
I like that you had said earlier, you know, it's more of a robotic mode. You have to put everything in the back and keep it moving, like as if you're not human. Like
Right.
someone just died, but you have to treat it as if like you just put something in the shredder, like
Yeah.
next. Like that really would take a toll on your emotions. And do they say, do they give to you like coping mechanisms, or like that you should be in therapy in a field like this and get some help?
No, it wasn't
Wow.
until a lot of us actually started vocalizing, and I started letting them know, like, hey, every time we deal with these patients, we have to get right back to work. It's I understand it's a business, but we don't have time to process, and y'all want us to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Right.
When is it going to be a time to where we actually start having debriefings, so where we can talk about, like, how is this making us feel, like how, like, because they started feeling like, everybody looks like they're tired, everybody looks like they're drained, everybody looks like they don't want to come to work. And it's like, some of us would call in, like I would have days where I wake up in the morning and I would get ready for work at 5, and my alarm would go off, and I'll just be like, you know what, today's not the day, and I'll just call in. It gets to that point, and once it started getting to that point for me where I started calling in every week, that's when I knew I was like, it's time to just go.
So the clinical depression and PTSD stemmed from seeing these patients die.
It's seeing that, and then also a little bit of childhood trauma as
Yeah.
well. With a lot of people, and I also was actually diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And the reason that they gave me that diagnosis was because of some of the childhood trauma. And what a lot of people don't realize is, when you don't have that nice bonding relationship with your mother or your father or somebody that you're close to in your family, and those generational curses just keep going and just keep going, all it does is just make everything worse. Like, my grandmother is also, she hasn't been diagnosed specifically. However, she has been going through her issues, as well as a lot of family members now. Like, they're going through these issues and nobody's really talking about it. And I'm like, why are you guys not talking about it? I'm grateful to have, support the way I do have support. My doctor, Dr. Fishkin, he sent me to a place where he was the sole person who designed the clinic and the place and the physicians. The first hospital I went to, and it'll probably seem crazy because you sound so, it doesn't seem like this was my first interview. That first place, when I was there, I believe I was there between 10 to 14 days. When I got out the hospital, I was afraid to go outside. I could not recognize where I had been. I have been in Houston for about 15, 16 years. And me coming on the outside, I was not familiar with where I was at. I had to look at a map. I still have to kind of GPS my way around to places that I've been knowing my whole life. And I was like, how am I coming out of an institution and I can't even think? I'm scared of my dogs. I can't, like, the dogs were, trying to come and embrace me because they're like, oh man, like, you've been away for so long. And I was so scared that I scared the dogs. And I was like, I always want to be in my room. Me having a bad reaction to the medication. Gratefully, my doctor was very understanding about that. And when I did get out and they put me on a medication, it increased my suicidal thoughts to the extreme. And he was able to send me to a place that he was like, well, you need to go back to where you came from. And I was like, no, I don't want to go there because I'm already scared. I don't remember a lot. It's things that I feel like I should remember. And there was this gap missing out of my life. And I'm like, I don't understand, how can this happen? Like, I feel like I was just basically like, how you can watch like TV shows and movies and they drop a person in the middle of nowhere and they kind of have to figure it out. That's how I felt. I was just dropped back into real life, and I'm like, you got to figure it out. I had to teach myself how to maneuver through my computer again, how to use my phone and maneuver through my apps again, how to actually make calls for my real estate business again, how to fill out a contract. Like, I had to reteach myself how to do so much in such a short period of time, but I'm still trying to battle how to get through these suicidal thoughts. And then we switched to medication. That medication ended up causing more problems. So I kept having every side effect to every medication. He was like, I don't know what's wrong. And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong either. He was like, I never had a patient who was actually experiencing the side effects to every single medication that we
Wow.
have. So it got to the point where I've been off of medication probably like 4 or 5 months now, and it was a decision that we made together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so far, it's been working great.
Do you feel like that was like God, universe, whatever you believe in, telling you that you don't need to be taking these medications?
Yes.
Your body was rejecting them. Do you
Hmm.
feel?
Yeah.
And when you left the location, the facility, the hospital, right? It was a hospital, right?
Yes.
Yeah. When you left the hospital, they say that either you can be worse after you come out than
Hmm.
when you first went in. Do you feel like the medicine did that, or would you feel like it was like the trauma of it, or what did your doctor say?
I felt like it was the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is because after me doing my own research into the specific medication,
Yeah.
they're like, why did they even put you on that? Even my doctor was like, why did they give you that to go home? And I was like, well, that's what they were giving me there. And he was like, it kind
Wow.
of makes sense as to why, you have these certain episodes, and it just, everything got worse when I came home instead of getting better.
You know, did you ever do anything about that? Did you ever, regarding attorney, lawyers, did you ever?
No,
Mhm.
no. Um, I just believe now where I'm at right now.
Mhm.
The universe, the Most High, actually made me go through this process to understand.
Mhm.
There are certain things, and I just kind of need to slow down and actually focus more on myself. I'm very
Mhm.
giving, and I put a lot of energy out to helping another person, but in some way, in some shape or form, I lost track of myself, and I also
Mhm.
allowed myself to go in a downward spiral. So a lot of things, most people go through these issues, they always try to point the finger, but what I've learned is I have to accept responsibility for everything, because if I had chose to make a certain decision, then certain things wouldn't have happened. And because I chose to keep drinking, I have to now battle and overcome all the things that have come with where I put myself in that position.
But it's not where you blame yourself. You're just accepting the responsibility for your life,
At
right?
first, I blamed myself a
Yeah.
whole lot. And now I accept responsibility for the things I cannot change.
Do you trust yourself again?
I would say yes. I would say 90%.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have not had any alcohol. I take that back. I did just come back from Jamaica. I had a mimosa. And I tried to sip the little red wine. And the only reason I did that, because my doctor, before I left, my psychiatrist, he was like, have you been drinking? That's the question that they always ask whenever I go, because that led to the issue now. And I told him no. He was like, well, since you're going on vacation, I'm not saying that you should drink, but you should at least try something. That way, you would feel kind of comfortable, being around alcohol. Because for me, because it caused so much pain, hurt, it brought me to such a dark place. I was
Mm.
afraid to be around alcohol. I had to go to the liquor store to get something for somebody, and I literally had a breakdown just pulling up at the liquor store. And I
Yeah.
was like in full blown panic attack, anxiety attack. I was
Mm.
able to complete it, but he was like, you have to feel comfortable.
Mm.
Um, I had decided I think that was the second or third time I got the hospital. I hadn't had a drink since November 14th. My uncle got married. I had a drink then. I hadn't drank since that day. I was like determined, like this is gonna be the last day, and I'm done. Cold turkey. Like I said, in Jamaica, I had like some mimosas, a little sip of red wine, but for me, I'm like, it's not something that I will indulge in again.
I like that. And it's like, so you don't fear it. I totally understand that aspect. And, you're on vacation. If you do want to, like, that's normal and healthy. It's like finding the healthy balance.
Hmm.
Excuse me. I think that's what your psychiatrist wants. Like, not that you have to deprive yourself of anything, but just that you can find a healthy balance in your life again.
Hmm. Yeah, it was
Wow.
okay. I was like,
But you don't care for alcohol. I don't care for alcohol. I don't
I
drink
don't.
either.
It's crazy because a lot of people, they're like, "Oh, Kiera's coming. She's the life of the party. We finna drink." And
Mm.
I'm like, "No, I don't drink no more. I
They
don't
must
drink
not
like that no
know.
more." Yeah,
They must not know.
yeah.
Wow. So how are you doing now? How's everything now?
Everything is great. I'm hiring employees, so I'm not running my business by myself anymore.
Wow.
It
Congrats.
is still a progress,
Mm,
motion in progress. However, I feel like things are going in the right direction.
mm,
Just staying focused. My psychiatrist does recommend a lot of different books for me to read. One book he did recommend was Sometimes I Act Crazy.
mm,
Uh, I don't remember right offhand who wrote that book, but that was a
mm,
great book. It more caters toward borderline personality disorder. However, he says he recommends it to anyone. He was like, it should be a book that's recommended in school
mm,
because it not only teaches you about you have moments to where you feel like, oh, you may be so sensitive to something or so passionate about something, but it's human nature. It's life.
mm.
And it may come off to someone else as, oh, you're just crazy, and in actuality, it's not that you're crazy. It's just because this is how you perceive life versus how another person perceives life. So it kind of gives you both perspectives on how other people can perceive what you say to them.
You know, this just reminded me of a book I read in high school, like from the high school, I believe I got it at the library.
Mhm.
And this was like after, some of my abuse, and it was a memoir, and this lady in the book, I don't remember the book name, but it was a name similar to that, like Don't Call Me Crazy. I think that's
Okay.
what the name was. I think you said something else, but now that I'm remembering, it's reminding me that she had like panic attacks, anxiety. She basically may have had a disorder in the book. And
Hmm.
I was reading that during high school, and that's what this reminds me of. And another book called You Don't Know Me by a teenager, and like his perspective on, abuse and everything. And
Hmm.
those two really resonated with me. The name, like You Don't Know Me and Don't Call Me Crazy.
Yeah.
I really like those two. I'm going to look that up. But thank you, because if you didn't come on, I wouldn't remember that I started this whole journey way back when you think about
Hmm.
it. And reading, like, it helped me to feel like, hey, I'm not the only one that's having problems.
Right.
Hi,
Right.
Joanna. Yeah, I think it's remarkable that you've come on here and you're sharing all of this, like sharing your whole life. Like, this is one of the best, like, valuable interviews I've done, because it's so honest and you're sharing your whole life. Like, you're not holding anything back. Not that you have to speak about details, like that's not
Hmm.
the important part. The important part is you're able to say, I was in this field, this happened, I have a psychiatrist. Like, most people can't even say that. They are ashamed, you
Oh,
know?
I tell everybody,
Yeah.
hey, if you have an issue, go therapist. You like, because I think it's like a negative connotation on having a
Yeah.
psychiatrist, and most people feel like only crazy people have a psychiatrist. When I told people that I actually go to therapy and I do have a psychiatrist, they were like, "Well, how do you feel about that?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, they're there to
Right.
help you navigate mentally, psychologically, emotionally, so you can have everything in check, so you can overcome things. It's not and then like therapy also has a negative connotation as well.
Mhm.
I feel like with me at first, like my therapy sessions, they were so intense, and I'm like, I would cry after my sessions, and I'm just like,
Me too,
I
yeah.
don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. But what I realized was therapy and your psychiatrist are there to help you overcome those things that we subconsciously push to the back of our minds. And we're like, oh, we'll deal with it later. And they pull that out of you at the beginning so you can address those issues, because really, honestly, that's where the problem stems
Mm.
from, all the things that we push to the back.
Mhm. I see you, girl. I see you being a doctor. Like, I see you, right, a doctor in whatever field you prefer if you wanted to, right? I see you, like, writing your own book. Like, I would read your book. Like, I can see you creating your own program. Since you had that experience, it's like now you can create a program for, let's say, essential workers, or program for, people who go through what you go through. Even a
Mhm.
blog, you can create a space for people who have your exact, brain health issues, because that's a chemical imbalance. That's why
Yeah.
psychiatry is needed. And that's all that is, because my mom, has that. So, can you tell us a little bit more about borderline personality disorder? Because I know of someone who had that, and, you know, it's hard, right? like to have that? Like, what's your experience?
It's hard at first. So my psychiatrist actually diagnosed me with that, and he said it's because so with borderline personality disorder, there's a variation. So for me, there's simplest terms is there's black and white, and then there's a gray area. I'm always in the gray area.
Mm.
So depending on how someone interacts with me that day, I can either go to the black area, or I can go to the white area. But most of the time, I'm in this gray area. I try not to go to the black, and I try to not go to the white, because I'm very guarded and I protect myself because of all the stuff that I've been through and all the challenges that I went through. So for me, I'm always in the gray. And he's like, well, you have to go to the white because that's, you have to experience happiness. But sometimes if a person's energy is not great, I go to whatever that person kind of feeds off for me. Is
Mm.
I'm always in a gray, but I can switch. Borderline. So
Mm.
like interacting with you, I may go more to the white.
Mm.
But if somebody comes around me and they have negative energy, it can kind of pull me into the black, which is pulling me back into a depression and all of that stuff like
Wow.
that. So you it's the sometimes at crazy it breaks it down into much more detail to where it kind of
Wow.
makes you understand a whole lot more. But for a person with borderline personality disorder, they stay in the gray.
Mm.
And depending on the people they have around them, they can go black, they can go white. So yeah.
Wow. I really like that. Do you have any other book recommendations?
Um Really, honestly, I read a lot of business books.
Yeah.
One and I am going to school to get my master's in business administration with a
Wow.
concentration in information technology. So,
Congrats. Right now?
thank you. Yeah, I
Wow.
have 4 classes left. So I'm like more geared
Go
towards like
girl.
getting that done so I can be done. So actually my psychiatrist was actually proud because he was like, man, do you know I finished my courses with an A and then I got a high C. And he was like, that's actually really good for someone who just experienced everything that you just went through in a short amount
Yes.
of time. The average student will have to drop out, but you still got an A and you got a high C.
That's
So
right.
he was like, you should be proud of yourself. You shouldn't be like, I was like, man, I got a C. I
That's
want,
what I'm saying. You're not
yeah.
average. I
Uh-huh.
can see you changing the world. Like you're not average. I can't think on the top of my head, like, but there's so many people, in Les Brown's program, if you remember the Power Voice program. I don't know if I ever told you about it. Do you
I
know Les Brown?
can't. Names sound familiar.
Yeah.
So the crazy thing is
Yeah.
now some of the things with my memory are now coming back. They
Mm.
said it would take time. I'm like, at first when I first got out of the hospital, I was like, I don't have time. Like I need these things to come back like, right now. And he's like, no, it's going to take
Yeah.
time. And then he eventually told me, he was like, hey, sometimes you go through these things and some things are taken from you so you won't remember them on purpose
Mm.
so you can progress.
I like
So
that.
I was like, yeah, but I would like to not have a gap in my life because
Yeah.
missing. But it comes to the point where I accepted that. So I do kind of remember certain things like you mentioned the name, I vaguely remember, but it will be something I'll have to look into again.
Yeah, I understand. I've had a few guests can't come on who've had, brain traumas,
Mhm.
regarding they have like a soft spot on their head, or they have, sometimes
Yeah.
some memory concerns, and that's a part of brain trauma, when a chunk of their brain is taken
Well,
out. Yeah.
what I learned, they
Yeah, tell
actually
us.
showed me a scan of my brain due
Wow.
to alcoholism.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people do not know is the more you drink, the more you cause damage to your brain. And it actually causes a lot of damage to your prefrontal cortex of your brain, which is more associated with memory and how you think and react to certain
Mm.
things. So what I had been doing by drinking so much, I had been taking away and eating away at that part of my brain. And I was like, man, this is crazy. Like I'm in surgery and then I'm looking at my own brain scan like, wow, I've caused so much damage to myself and I didn't even know.
That's right. And people are doing this on a daily basis. So I do want to recommend a book to you by Dr. Daniel Ammon. I don't know if you heard of him on Instagram. It's Ammon Clinics. But in that book, I got it at Barnes Noble. I was sitting there reading it because it's showing me different brain scans. And
Mhm.
because my mom, has paranoid schizophrenia and illness anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
So because of her, I'm intrigued by all of this. I want to know the knowledge. So
Mhm.
I was like, she needs a scan. We need to figure out where in her brain, what's
Yeah.
causing this,
Mhm.
and in community mental health, I just don't feel like people take that extra effort or initiative to really help people with the root of the cause,
Yeah.
like they just prescribe the medicine, but that doesn't cure her. Like, what is the root of the
Mhm.
cause? Like, nobody knows. Like, that's
Yeah.
the thing about mental health. Like, they don't even know. It's so complex,
Mhm.
that like something like schizophrenia, and that's why even borderline personality disorder, it's like these are like complex diagnoses that have been going on for years, possibly.
Mhm. Yeah, and then also for me, every time I talk to my psychiatrist, we always laugh, because he's like, "Well, since you don't take medicine anymore, did you go back to smoking marijuana?" And I'm like, "Oh, here we go again." Yes, I actually did. One
Mm,
thing, so as a psychiatrist and therapist and a
mhm,
medical professional, of course, they are supposed to tell you you're not supposed to indulge in those things. However, research has kind of proved that those things actually help mental health patients.
mm, mhm.
And I'm
So
just
is it
leaving right there.
medicinal?
You're not really supposed to talk about it because that's encouraging other people to
Yeah,
seek their
but I
own,
believe
you
medicinal
know.
is legal. I think here in
It's
Jersey, I
in
believe so.
certain states,
Mhm.
however, with that's a
Medicinal is
conversation to
possibly
have.
not the same
Yeah,
weed as the
yeah,
weed that we've had. Let's be real.
exactly.
The weed that we've had in real
Yeah,
life with our
yeah,
friends is not the same weed that they give in medicinal. Um,
yeah.
wow. But
So those things actually help. CBD oils also help.
mhm. I have
What's
this one
another
lotion that a friend had given me. It's like social CBD, but I don't buy it
one?
myself. But I
Mhm.
see all these stores with, there's so much out here now, like so
Yeah.
many products.
Hmm.
Wow. So,
So that's
yeah.
something that I found that has helped me.
Mm,
Most people, they will smoke for a high.
mhm,
I don't smoke for a high. It keeps me here.
mhm.
It keeps me in a mellow, just calm state, and I can maneuver through life with no problems.
I definitely understand, and I'll be transparent and say this. Um, during I think my yeah during university, I believe I was 24, and I had such high anxiety, I think because of
Hmm.
my mom's diagnosis. Like, she was on medication, it was projecting onto me, that when I had to do presentation, I forgot the whole presentation because I was so anxious.
Yeah.
And I had heard some news by the advisor, told me I wasn't going to graduate on time, that caused
Hmm.
me anxiety. Then I had to go to class to present. Anyway, I discovered through a friend the vaping, like the oils that
Yeah.
you vape. And that really helped me with my
Hmm.
home environment during that time, because I needed to stabilize.
Hmm.
You need that. And it's like I feel like you can't judge anyone because you don't know what somebody's going through.
Yeah.
That's the healthy way that what I could do at the time.
Hmm.
It wasn't anything extreme, it's just the stand of it, and it really calmed me down. But that's how I survived.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. It's not like I was drinking my life away. So it's only when I felt anxiety, and I
Yeah.
didn't have any therapy. I didn't know anything about mental health. I didn't even know I had like issues, because I
Yeah.
nobody ever told me what this is.
Hmm.
And we kind of just hide in the dark unless someone
Yeah.
else talks about it first. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's how I survived. For real.
Uh-huh.
I have no shame, but look at what I do now, and it's like,
Yeah.
we all
Changing
have
the
our
world.
stories. Yeah, so are you, by telling your story. This is just your first of many, if you would like, you
Hmm.
can do this with other people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just want to thank you once again for your time. Is there anything else like you'd like to say before you go?
I just want people to know that you have to be in control of you before you can accept support from other people, because they can only support you so much.
Hmm.
One thing my cousin told me was, you're saying that you want the help, but your actions are not aligning with that. So until your actions start aligning with the words that you're saying, your support system is obsolete.
I really like that. Wow.
Yeah.
And I really like the fact, I like that your cousin is your support for that. And I like, that you said, no one can, people can only do so much, because I remember when I didn't have any support groups or any, therapy, that
Hmm.
I was dumping everything onto my friends at the time, and they could only
Yeah.
take so much.
Hmm.
So I lost, let's say I released a lot of friendships, or we outgrew
Yeah.
and, stopped talking to one another, because we can only hear so much of the same thing on a daily basis,
Hmm.
and so I understand why someone, would have dropped me as a friend. They don't want to deal with me anymore, because I have some serious things going on that
Yeah.
I don't even know the names of, like the
Hmm.
terminology. Now, as I'm older and I know all of this, I can't, it's like you have to forgive that, because they can't help me. They don't know how to even help me,
Right.
you know?
And I feel like a lot of my relationships, like you say, I used to use the word damage, but I should not say damage or, destroyed. I should say those relationships were released,
Mm,
because you can, like you say, you can only put so much, or they can only tolerate so much. And I'm grateful for not only my cousin, the family members that supported me, but also Loopy, because he's been a major help
oh,
in helping me get through this process.
yes. No hate over here when you watch this. Just want to tell him. But one great thing is, even if him and I didn't click like long term, I think sometimes God does things where you and I were supposed to be the one talking. It doesn't have to be, what you initially see. The
Hmm.
whole thing was to get to you. When I went on his
Okay.
platform, I think it was to get to you. And even now, it's, even though him and I don't have to be in touch, but the whole point is you and I are in touch, because that's what it was supposed to be. That was the plan. The plan
Hmm.
wasn't for him and I. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I'm grateful, because
Yeah,
without you two
I
being
know.
able to connect, then I wouldn't have this opportunity to actually, be on here with you.
Right? Yeah. And the fact that I wasn't judgmental or picky, and it's like no one's perfect, but the fact that, you know, I, the fact that I am who I am, as in, like, because you don't, you know what I mean? Like, I could
Hmm.
have been like, no, like, who are you? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
I'm
know.
glad that I don't think that way. I'm glad that I'm open and I give everyone a chance, regardless of appearance or credential, or everyone has a journey, and that's why I'm not judgmental when it comes to this platform, because
Hmm.
you don't know. Like, someone
Yeah.
could be homeless today, tomorrow they're a superstar. Like, you're not
Man.
supposed to judge people
Hmm.
based off of those things, because that used to be me.
Yeah.
I used to be like the ugly duckling, and nobody, I had like no friends and like all this stuff. So it's like,
Hmm.
can't think like that, you know?
Right.
Yeah. But thank you so much. And that book, once again, is called Sometimes,
Sometimes I act crazy.
Sometimes I Act
Actually, hold on. Let me
Crazy.
see.
All
I
right.
got it on my bookshelf.
Okay.
This is it.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah.
like that. And the next time we're going to be seeing your own.
Hopefully, a lot of people have been asking me recently, am I going to write a book? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm
It's
ready to
overwhelming.
divulge that information. However, a lot of people are looking at what I'm doing and how I've overcome. And I don't want to say, like, I don't want them to get the perception that it's easy,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not easy. Because there are days where I wake up and I'm stuck in bed all day. I just want to cry and sleep and
Mm,
cry and sleep and cry and sleep. And then there's other days where I'm like, I'm just going, 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 going. But those are also things that you have to be mindful of dealing with the mental illness, because you can put yourself in a state to where you're actually going into a manic mode. And that
mm,
is where everything can start downward spiraling again.
mm. I feel like, thanks for saying that. And I do feel like, regarding the book, people have asked me about that as well. It's like, it can be overwhelming, one
Mhm.
thing at a time, like one step at a time. Only
Yeah.
when I feel like only when your spirit is called to do it. Not everything has to be now real
Mhm.
estate, now book, now, Kiera is
Yeah.
doing all this stuff. No, everything has its time. Maybe it's supposed to be 20 years from now,
Mhm.
maybe when you're more well and more advanced in your career. And then you're like, okay, I feel like I could talk about this in full detail. That's when you
Mhm.
don't want to stir up stuff. And then you're going to, be sitting with your psychiatrist, like, that this book is not serving your health.
Yeah.
It's making you more stressed out and stuff. You don't want that. So
Yeah.
that's why I even said, for me, I feel like for people who have trauma, like, you definitely
Mhm.
need a therapist on standby. If you're
Yeah.
writing a book, sharing the things you've been through, that is really difficult to do.
Yeah. It is.
I just feel like I'm going to need somebody by my side.
Yeah, but I also feel like there's not enough done in the community
Mm,
that actually show real personalized stories. I feel like it's a facade that is given that, oh, very successful people don't go through these issues or don't have a problem and they didn't
right.
have any challenges to face. And I feel like um you in your platform, me sharing what I feel comfortable with sharing at this moment is also helping somebody else rethink about their decisions also.
Yeah. You're very intellectual. You are. You didn't just go to medical school for nothing. Dang. But that's another thing too. Like, for example, my mom is really smart, even though she has her diagnosis. Like,
Mhm.
people can judge, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, that's why with people who are autistic, they're great painters or great at math and more than
Mhm.
Einstein, and because they have those special abilities,
Yeah.
and for you, maybe you have yet to find your niche, but it's coming.
Mhm.
You could choose to be in a facility. You could choose to just say, nope, I'm just lay here all day. Like, you could choose to, not
Yeah.
the days where I'm saying we all have up and down days, like even
Mhm.
myself, but I'm saying, like, you could choose to permanently be like, nope, I'm not doing a career. I'm not
Yeah.
doing, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
choose to give up, but you're not. And I think that's that right there is that you're going to make it because of
Mhm.
what you're doing now. Like, you're going to make it to be highly successful, and you don't let your diagnosis control you. That doesn't define you, right?
Sometimes, when you have those slipbacks, you be like,
Yeah.
dang. Like I had one the other day. Was that last night? No, 2 days ago. And
Mm,
I just feel like, and I kept beating myself up about it. And then I was like, you know what? I got to stop doing this
mm-hmm.
because this is why I keep slipping back. Because every time I have a slip back and then I revert back to my book and I'm like, okay, you know what? This is going to happen. It like the things that even though I'm progressing faster than a usual person,
Mm-hmm.
because my doctors and psychiatrists, like, a person that was drinking as much as you, normally they relapse. Like, you made the decision to go cold turkey. I'm like, yeah, I had a small bottle of alcohol sitting on my counter. It had been there for months because I had company and they left it. I could have easily just said, you know what, I'm done. Let me start drinking again. Didn't. It I feel like people should understand, don't be so tied to the things that people say. Just because other people relapse, that don't mean that you'll relapse. You have to be stronger mentally to say, you know what, I'm done.
Wow. Wow. I could talk to you forever. This is amazing. And yeah, mental strength. And even if, let's say, and this is not, see, this is the thing, even if you had drank that, but,
Mhm.
you could go back to, doing your career again and everything. It's like, but don't like blame yourself. It's like, give yourself grace. Like, you're doing the best you can. I think
Mhm.
that's where a lot of people get stuck. Like,
Yeah.
that they don't give themselves grace. Like, it could be worse. You could have went out and bought more. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Uh-huh.
Like it happened, it's done, and you don't, that's not where you live anymore. Like, you live in the
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
And I think that's the main thing to remember, is that the past is not here anymore. I mean, for all of us to
Right.
remember is that those are memories. That's all they're just memories.
Yeah.
As much as you decide to think on them is on you. You
Mhm.
control that in your mind.
Right.
Nobody else knows what you're thinking, you know?
Right. Only you do.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.